In my last video, I talked about my opinion on the Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, and I did not give that a very favorable review. So, many of you are wondering what I thought about the current competing fantasy show, the Game of Thrones prequel, House of the Dragon. Well, I just got done watching all 3 episodes that are currently available, and so far, I'm really enjoying it. I am a casual Game of Thrones fan, certainly not a super fan. I watched it, I kind of halfway binge watched it much later after the entire thing was done. Watched it in a somewhat distracted state. I'm certainly no stickler for details, but I enjoyed a lot of that show, a lot of the plot lines. Didn't really care for some of the characters, but I appreciate Game of Thrones. That's where I stand, and I'm familiar with the lore loosely, so I feel like I'm probably the best case scenario viewer for the House of the Dragon series because I'm familiar with the backstory and the lore, but I'm certainly not going to be a stickler for details and a real hard ass. So, in my opinion, this show starts off pretty strong. Now, I would love to hear the opinion of somebody that is completely unfamiliar with everything to do with Game of Thrones, because I feel like I give this show a lot of grace because I know the details of the Targaryens and I kind of know the significance of that. Maybe if you don't know that stuff, you don't like it as much, but I think the show starts off pretty strong. There's a few things this show does that the original Game of Thrones, they just don't make the same mistakes. I feel like the original Game of Thrones had so many characters and so many plot lines that things moved very, very slowly at times, whereas this show moves, man. The plot really moves, years at a time, quickly, and you don't feel like the characters are getting skipped over or not really fleshed out, because there just aren't as many. There aren't as many characters. There aren't as many plot lines. There's not as much going on. Some people might not like that, but I like that. And so far, I enjoy all the characters that you do get to spend time with. So I think they're doing a pretty good job with the pacing of the show. I have not been bored, and we are right now, in the first 3 episodes. If any of the episodes are going to be boring, it's probably going to be the world building episodes. And they're doing world building right now. They're doing the character building right now in the show, but it's certainly not boring. So I think they have done a better job than the original Game of Thrones did with that, because sometimes the original Game of Thrones was definitely a little slow. But I think the show does a great job of showing and not telling. Game of Thrones, for the most part, the original series was pretty good about this, but sometimes there was just a lot of dialogue, and I don't know. This show, if there's a crazy guy, you see him being crazy. If there is a wise, measured guy, you see him doing that. You don't have to go by some sort of exposition to figure out what's happening in the story. You just physically see it happen. I also really enjoy being in the Targaryen era. It's just fun with all the dragons and all the Targaryens doing super crazy things. It's just a fun time to be in, and I'm happy that Game of Thrones is exploring some of these alternate periods throughout their history, because there's some fun stuff there. I would love to see a Robert Baratheon series where he, rises to power and gets the Iron Throne. He's my favorite Game of Thrones character, so I'm happy to see them exploring these other storylines and fleshing them out more, because there's a lot there, obviously. Whatever you may think about George R.R. Martin right now, you got to admit, he really set this whole thing up to be explored in a very serious way, which is fun. So, the show definitely has a, quote, girl power plot line, but it is genuinely done very well. And it's not cringy, it makes sense, and it's actually a good plot line. I like all of the characters in this show so far. All of the plot lines, I like them. I can't even say that about the original Game of Thrones, because then, the Dornish spinny sand people, there was a lot of dumb stuff in Game of Thrones. Everybody did, you just kind of put it to the back of your mind. But so far, all of the stuff they've presented in this show is good. The first episode is almost extremely graphic for almost no reason. Especially some of the fight scenes are just whoa. But it does die down a little bit. Not that really bothers me too much, but the whole show is not quite that exhausting as the first episode is. I think they just wanted to start off with a real bang. But so far, all 3 episodes, pretty solid. I highly recommend this show to really anyone. It's good popcorn, fun, it's entertaining. So check it out. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to subscribe with notifications on. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter, and join the Discord. It's free.